we'll go ahead and call the redistricting meeting to order. A physical quorum of members is not present. However, pursuant to Section 7E of the Open Meetings Act, members are permitted to attend remotely. Either one member of the committee, chief administrative officer, or our chief legal counsel are physically present at the regular meeting location. In-person attendance and public comments are allowed, subject to attendance limitations required to ensure health and safety of those who attend. So with that out of the way, can we have a roll call, please?
Member Chaplin? Member Chavez?
Here.
Member Krajewski?
Here.
Member Ozak?
Here.
Member Pachowski?
Here.
Member Rutledge?
Here.
And Member Zay.
Here. Okay, thank you. I assume we have no public comment?
Correct.
Okay. Move on to chairman's remarks. I just want to thank everyone for, I guess, volunteering for this committee or being selected through your district. Obviously, this is a large task. It happens every 10 years. And with the pandemic, it even gets more concerning and will be more time consuming. I've talked with talked to people in the field, and with the census, the rumors right now are census numbers are not going to come out until July, which will really put us in some trouble there. But I think we can start the process of what redistricting has gone. I've been through two of them. Hard to say. The first one was very interesting, being a new board member, and then 10 years ago, it got a lot easier with technology, and I assume it's going to get even easier now with technology, with GIS and being able to do it. The issues we have is that the state law says we have to have a map by May 1st. We know that's not going to happen. So I know Cheryl has been working with ISACO to get a shell bill in to get that changed, so we can get some extra time to get the map done. I think we have to have, by law also, we have to have a map done 90 days prior when petitions are put out for the primary. So it leaves us, I think, around August 1st would be like the latest we could do anything at that point, or mid-August, but I don't think we want to go that late. And Cheryl, do you know how that's going with ISACO? Is that on their list of things to put forward right away?
Yes, and just to clarify, Chairman, the chairman of the county board can produce a map by May 1, but a county board must have a map done by July 1, or it goes to a 5-member committee. So the county board would lose the ability to draw its own map. But to your point, we might need to extend that July 1 at least maybe to the end of August, because the state's attorney has told me we can't go past September 1. To your point, 90 days filing for people that start filing in December to run for the March 2022 primary. So we need to extend the deadline. The May 1 for chairman, even though the chairman's not really doing a map, he's doing it through this committee, but in some county boards that May 1's a problem, and also the July 1. So there's really 2 dates we need to move till, later to be in accordance with the U.S. Census guidelines.
Right, and I think the problem we have too is that there's plus or minus 0 on this, right? It's 1 vote per, it's not even a vote per district. Each district has to be equally represented. So you can't have one district with 10 more voters than the other. Every district has to be exactly the same, which makes it even more interesting. That's why you wonder, if you ever look at your map while you're walking or doing something, why you have a cul-de-sac or you have one house on a block. That's because of that. So it's strange, but that's the rules we have to go through.
Hey, Jim.
I did. Yes.
Real
Brian,
quick, Cheryl, is that May 1st just for DuPage and Will County because isn't that what 10 years ago that was put in just for those two that could draw maps?
I thought it was statewide, but I'll have to look again.
Yeah, I thought they put because I was on this committee 10 years ago, and I thought there was legislation put in specifically for DuPage and Will for their chairman that could draw maps. So I think that May 1st be for those two.
Okay.
Member Krajewski, the section says any county having a population of less than 3 million, or any county where the chairman of the county board is elected by the voters of the county, or where there's a county executive form of government.
okay. Okay, I will check with our, oh, I'm sorry, Member Ozog?
I'm not quite clear on this. So is there almost a dueling map system here where you have the county chairman able to do one and then we do one? And is there a conciliation or what? I'm not quite clear on this, how this works with the two different.
Well, he has the ability to, and in my experience, they really have never done one. It's always been the county board that's done one collaboratively. I mean, the chairman would have to bring his, I think, Cheryl, the chairman would have to bring his forward and it has to be voted on by the board, right?
Correct.
Correct.
So I would think I think we would go with our map before the chairman's map, but
And we're
depends
assured
where
the chairman is not doing a map at this time. It's just this committee. He
just
is,
this committee.
he has asked this committee to come forward with a map.
Correct.
Okay,
In some
Okay.
counties, it might be different, but that's what we've done traditionally is the redistricting committee has been appointed, right?
okay. Got it.
Okay, and you know, we just got out of the rules committee, and one thing I'm going to check with our people is that there's not a vice chairman on this committee. I don't know if I can appoint one, if the chairman has to appoint one, but the rules don't call out for that. So I think we would need a vice chairman. So I'll find out how the process is on that at that point for the committee. But you know, it's silent, so I don't know what that would be if the chairman of the committee appoints one or the chairman of the county board has to appoint one, but we'll find that out. And or if we vote amongst ourselves to appoint a chair of the committee. So we'll figure that out for the next meeting and then we can give you an update on that. That's all I have discussion. Is there any board members that have discussions on this? Member Rutledge?
Thank you, Chairman. Just from a public perspective, I was reading an article this morning talking about the chairman of the Census Bureau stepping down, and that article cited that we would have data in March. So if that's not the case till July, I think it might be a good idea to kind of get in front of that a little bit.
We'll take it as soon as we can get it. I mean, there is some data out there right now. I've talked to people, but there's a 3 to 5% error rate in it, which
Okay.
isn't good. So, I mean, I think they're looking for more numbers. I think they're scaring people with that. I'm hoping by the spring we'll have good numbers. But again, it's all speculation on how the process is going and when they start putting those numbers out.
Jim, Tom, Chelsea, can I say something?
Yes, Member Petrowski.
Isn't there a presumption, and maybe we need the state's attorney to hone in, that you're supposed to be drawing districts that encompasses the entire township? I thought when I was with this 10 years ago, that was what we got from legal counsel. So if we could have, it would prefer to keep every township as one in that district. Is that case law or is that a presumption? Is that your recollection?
Not even a thing in 6.
Yeah.
I thought it because of the corners and things like that. I knew we had something last time where that came up, so. We have to have a file from last time we did this, and we have to have notes or research. I was wondering if we could kind of have maybe that available so we could see what we did last time as far as these same issues and questions we're gonna have this time.
I wish. Sheila, how many townships do we have parts of?
6.
6 townships in District 6.
There's 9 townships, so.
Yeah, I know, but we shouldn't be in 6 then. I'll give you a part of a couple of townships.
Yeah.
Member Kuchewski?
Yeah, I mean, I assume we're gonna get moving towards hiring somebody that's gonna do this for us. And I think the first order of business, what we need is to get, which we had last time, I think when we first started out, was just what the population is currently in all 6 county board districts. Because I remember from 10 years ago, when we got that back, District 3 had shrunk by 10+ thousand voters and District 5 had picked up about that same amount. Everybody else was relatively the same. So at least we knew going into it at that time that 3 was going to have to pick up a lot of 5. And I have no idea now what the last 10 years, what the population has done. So I think that's one of the first things we should figure out is at least what our current county board districts are population wise, because then we'll know at least which ones currently have either too many or too few and, you know, start getting an idea before we get the exact census information in, you know, where the numbers are. Or maybe they can't do it till they get the census. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think we can do that. We can ask a consultant to do that. We might actually be able to ask our GIS department to get us some rough numbers and see how that looks at that point. see what it looks like. Member Chavez?
Yes, I was just wondering if you could talk us through a little bit about the history of the technology that was used the last round and what we anticipate the technology being this round. Do we have any information on that?
Yes, 10 years ago, we used a firm, it's still in business, it's Lugians, Brady, Garner, and Armstrong. The first time they did it, it was more maps, and it was like, 20 years ago, as you can imagine how computers were. 10 years ago, Member Krajewski remembers, I think Member Pachowski remembers, you would actually go in and they would have it on a laptop and they could basically move the cursor, and you would see the numbers tallying, changing plus or minus. So that was pretty good for that time. The technology's gotten even better now. So when I talked to the consultant about, we had budgeted 100,000 last time and we only used about 75. I asked him what he thought on this time. He thought 50 was the number, 50,000. And that was just on an hourly basis. He said, I don't see it. It would be, not to exceed 50,000, but it would be based on an hourly rate of the time used, which is, I think it's going to be considerably less than what we thought. I thought 100,000 at least, and he said it's half of that, 50 or less. I mean, just because of the technology that's going on. Member Rutledge, and then Member Ozog.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. So are the townships going through this process at the same time? And is there ever a time that we'll kind of look at each other's maps to see if we can clean up some of the areas?
No, townships never change. Their boundaries stay the same. So it's just ours.
Okay, I thought that they were population as well. All right, cool, thank you.
Yeah, no, they just stay the same. So, we're the only ones that change. And at the same process, the state will be drawing their maps, state maps will be going and federal maps will be going at the same time. Member Ozone?
Chairman Zay, what kind of firm is this? What kind of consultancy? Is it maps and?
They're a legal firm. They do redistricting.
Oh, they are a law firm. Okay.
Yeah, law firm.
But they deal with this kind of work. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Jim,
I apologize for being late.
Oh, no problem.
I thought it was 3:30, my old eyes, and I can't find my glasses. So, all right, thank you. Sorry.
We've got
that.
Member Pachowski?
I know last time we had counsel, but we also had another person that was handling the map. Was that hired through the law firm, or was that hired by us independent?
That was through the firm, and they said their expertise has expanded since then. They don't need that additional person, that they can handle it themselves. They obviously, these firms, they go, I know they were in a conference. There's been several conferences for redistricting, which were supposed to be, they all went to virtual. So, I mean, this is basically a software program. You learn how to use it, and it goes that way. And then obviously with the legalese of how, knowing where to go. I think we remember last time, you actually had, a dot on the map or a little house where each county board member lived. So you kind of knew where you were drawing a district, and if you weren't drawing somebody out or keeping them in, that's how you go, how we did it. And there was, Brian remembers we were up there once, we would go 2 at a time to a room and do a district or 2, and then 2 other people would go in the room, and and then I get a call the next day and say, another board member came in and changed it. Now you're going all the way to Ogden Avenue. And there was, but it's so much easier now with the computer. And when we have a talk about getting a firm there, they'll be able to explain more of how it goes and the time it takes and, what we need to do. Member Desart.
Thank you, Chairman. So with the new technology, how long would it take the company once we get these census numbers? Say we get them July 1st. How long would the company need to get the information to us?
Well, with our input, we would probably, I would think it would take a month or 2 to do it.
Oh, really?
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully, if it's not, our backs are up against I'd rather us have a little time and be able to talk about it instead of our backs up against the wall here and we have to get something done quickly. Obviously, we'd seek input of each district and, see what's going on. And like Member Krajewski said, we have to see where the population has shifted. There was a reason 10 years ago why District 6 was so big geographically because, forest preserves, airport, all of that. Now I think we've seen more of a shift of population to the west. So it's, there might be a shifting of districts, from the east to the west now to make up for it. Like District 5 has had huge growth in 10 years. So it might be, smaller than it is now. And some districts might be bigger.
Thank you.
I think their maps will be done in a week. The issue is going to be if we agree on it. They can easily put the population there, but if we move, a road to make it work, and somebody may say, I don't want that area, and unless we agree, that's going to be the harder part is, or maybe it won't be hard, but it's the county board. We have to agree the 6 districts and what they are. And so they can easily carve it up because they know how many people are in each house. And like Jim said, it has to be off by 1, either even or 1 off. So if you move a street and you've added 30 more people, then you've taken 30 out of another district and you have to, but it's us, it's going to be up to us to decide how long it takes.
Right. Member Rozak?
I'm thinking way back, but my understanding of the census is that census is continually generating numbers. Are we required by state law to use the final census numbers, or can we be using whatever they may be reporting or generating? Say if they generated numbers that were useful from a year ago. My recollection is that there is ongoing census even during the 10-year period. So what are we required to use? So if there is preliminary information available or ongoing information, will we be able to use that so that we could at least have kind of a
framework,
a roadmap that where we think things may be changing, based on this preliminary or ongoing information? Is it a law? And
that's above my pay grade, Connor.
Let me look at it really quickly. I'm poking through the county's code on it. The recollection I have is that you're supposed to use the latest and best.
Latest and best, yeah.
Latest and best is generally
Okay.
preferred, especially since there's a certain amount of data, but it's not always granular data, like block data or individual housing data. You may have somebody that's census data that says, there's about 1 million people in DuPage County, which we already know. But it doesn't get down as granular into those districts. It may go by zip code, or it may not go at all.
That's statutory case law.
I'm going to have to look at that a little bit more, but just generally speaking, my recollection is that the expectation is to use the most accurate data available, which usually is the decennial census.
But not final census data. There's not an actual requirement of where it has
I'm
to
going to have to look into that.
Would you, yeah, thank you. Because I think if we can at least get some snapshot of what the county looks like right now, we could do some preliminary discussion at least in the next 6 months before we get any data. So.
Right.
Okay,
Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Chairman Zay. So my question is, when we draw this map, we're drawing it for the county board and the forest preserve?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
Yes. We're linked by legislation.
Okay, because Member Selman asked me to ask on behalf of Dan Hubiard, the Forest Preserve president, that they believe that District 4 was drawn a little different for the Forest Preserve than County Board. But I said, I don't think that could be, because then it would affect other districts.
No,
Correct?
they're linked by legislation.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought. Okay,
The same.
great. So we're drawing for both. And in the Forest Preserve District, they do not weigh in on this at all. We just do this County Board, correct?
I think by statute, yeah, we really haven't in the past, we have not sought the input of the Forest Preserve.
Okay, thank you.
And we could. I mean, I have no problem talking to the Forest Preserve about it.
Okay, thank you.
Who does?
Okay, and then I'm sorry, Member Rutledge?
I'm sorry, yeah. Who gets down to the precinct districting?
That's the Board of that would be the clerk.
Election Commission, clerk.
Election Commission does that, the clerk. So if they need to change precincts, they will do that, over a certain amount of time. If they're too big, too small, whatever. I think they do that in concert with the township organizations.
Thank you.
They also try to do it in relation to state house and congressional districts to try to keep them all in the same precinct, but they will probably make changes once the new map is out.
I'm sorry if I'm giving vague questions on some, or vague answers. We
Yeah,
haven't looked at a consultant yet, but I mean, obviously, like Member Juicy said, we can get numbers right now and we can start a preliminary. I mean, we can pass a map and amend it at any time. I mean, if we start getting it and, we start getting down to, we're not getting the numbers, we can still do what the best numbers we have. And then over time, we can always amend it at that point before the deadline. Member Oza?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So do we have to go out to bid for this consultant, or is it a sole source? And what's the time frame for that? Because it sounds like that's a pretty critical piece of what we're going to be doing here.
Well, I think it's a professional service. It'd be, so we could go out and seek proposals.
Okay, and is that an issue in terms of queuing up to be, I want to be sure we get the right person, right time.
Right. I don't think there's a lot of firms that do this, so I'll have to look and see and talk with staff and see how we can get it out there and see who does it. Obviously, the people who did it the last time for us is still in business, so, reached out to them and see if they're still doing it and, what their recollections were in the past. They bring some historical knowledge back to what we've done in the past, but we can always go out and see, other firms that do it.
Wouldn't it be a request for qualifications rather than RFP?
I guess, yeah, we could do either. I mean, I would think so.
I would think that would,
You want to get somebody who's actually done this in the past, I would think.
I think the RFQ would be a much better way to go. So that would be something I would look at.
Okay. Is there any other discussion items? And for the budget, we did not, in our planning last year, we did not put anything in the budget for redistricting. So, like I said, I got a rough estimate of a number from a firm that said 50,000 until we actually find out and do an RFQ for this. I'm not sure what number we can put in there. We can put a placeholder, maybe of 100, not to exceed 100,000. If everybody thinks that's enough. Again, if we had to go above that, we'd have to come back, and get, approval of the committee and the board. So
is that part of this
Member
committee
Desart?
assignment? Is that part of this committee assignment that the 7 of you have to chip in to cover the cost?
Yes, yes, that's we're
Glad
gonna.
I'm not officially on the committee.
Yeah, Mr. Krajewski was gonna send the first one in. So,
Do you need a motion on a budget amount, Jim?
I don't have it down as an amount, so I'm not
Okay.
sure if I can move forward,
Okay,
Connor, on that. I mean, we can only discuss it, right?
I would say I prefer that you have some sort of formalized document,
okay.
ultimately with setting a budget and giving a little bit notice of it. It's good to
Okay.
discuss it, but,
Yeah,
if
so-
if they keep it flexible, you may as well do it at a later date anyway.
Yeah, so for the next meeting, we'll put something down for an action item for 100,000, and then we'll get a process out for RFQ. Member Chavez?
I'm just wondering, just from a partisan issue, how do we find someone that is truly nonpartisan? I know we've got a good mix here on the call, but what's some of the thought behind that?
I mean, for us doing the map or for a
Yeah,
firm
for the
doing it?
map drawing and, hiring a consultant and hiring at a firm. I know oftentimes they fall into one camp or the other. How do we kind of find that? Has there ever been an issue in the past, or is it something we need to consider?
No, there really hasn't been in the past, because now, I would say 20 years ago, it was probably more like that. But now with computerization and GIS, it's all computerized. I mean, you're gonna put a line there, and we'll be sitting there, and he'll put a line up, and he'll move it one block over, and we'll all see the number, the totals change for, whatever districts it affects.
Yeah,
the
that
only
makes sense, because I was just thinking that, because I know, I can go into a neighborhood that's just very specifically different, a precinct, and I think we all know that. So I guess we just kind of see those numbers change, and that's where our approval comes in.
Yeah, it would be
It's gonna be
just
us.
see where the population shifts.
Okay.
Member Rosa?
My impression, Member Chavez, thank you, Mr. Chairman, is that these firms are really producing numbers, basically. They're not really, there's not a whole lot of room for party bias, let's put it that way. It seems like that's the product that they're selling, that they're giving us the numbers, and then we'll be the ones to make those back and forth decisions or discussions. Does that sound what this.
It does, it helps, but I've gotten that question from my townships and I thought, oh, I'll get a little more info. So that is helpful. Thank you.
It would seem it would behoove them to be very neutral in terms of just the numbers, sir, just the numbers. So,
The data.
Right, and like you said, by just getting those numbers, what the districts look like right now, we'll know ahead of time what needs to be changed. Say if there's been a big population shift to the south or to the west or whatever, you'll know right away when we pull those original numbers up that it's like, okay, well, somehow District 1 might have to change, or District 2 or District 6 will get smaller or something like that. We'll know right away off of old numbers. And then once we get the real data from the census, that's when you start narrowing it down by blocks and by streets. And, we always try to do it. I know in the past, we've always tried to do it smartly via street, not cutting through backyards or doing whatever, where you're trying to get it through, major roads or blocks or whatever, and not, doing it diagonal or, you would be surprised how many people live in the forest preserve, which was amazing 10 years ago. Be like, there's a house there where they have 4 people they say live there. So you have to run a whole district around the forest preserve to get 4 people in. So it's interesting. Member Chaplin?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Zate. So yeah, and it's my understanding too that you really kind of have to make the districts contiguous. You really can't, you're not really supposed to have like a line going through the middle of one town or something like that. And with that being said, and looking at how the Southwest has grown, I don't want to start a controversial subject here, but to keep districts similar in size and stuff, we could also add another district, right? If we had to, or, go to 5 districts or go to 8 districts or divide up the board members that way, depending how the population is shifted. I'm just saying those are other opportunities, things that we can look at as we look at the map. Correct, right? Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know. Connor, I don't think we can add districts, can we?
You cannot, you are at the maximum amount for your board members. The section 3002.5 of the county's code says that you can't have more than 18 members. So you couldn't add more 3-member districts.
But you could have more districts with 2 members.
You could, if you go down to 2-member districts, you could have
Right.
more 2-member districts.
Right.
You cannot increase it beyond the 18 that's currently set by.
Yes.
the county.
18 members, okay.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, just saying, if we needed to keep the map contiguous and we, if there was too much growth in that southwest corner and the northeast or wherever, that's just an option to look at. So we're not gerrymandering it where, like I said, you have, part of District 5 is here and then all the way over in another section of DuPage, so.
Right. Connor, my only question back to you then would be what we brought up earlier about the forest preserve. How would that affect the forest preserve?
Well,
Because
again,
they only have 6 commissioners. So how would that, if we went to 8, I mean, that'd be a problem, wouldn't it?
I'd have to look in to see how that would impact forest preserves, because again, we're in a unique situation where I believe we're one of the only counties that has a separately elected forest preserve district, and it's based on our county board rules, or sorry, it's based on our county board districts. So that's something I'd have to research.
Okay. I see Member Puchowski, then Member Krajewski.
Thanks, Jim. I would like to get from the state's attorney at least some guidance as to what statutory codes we're looking at, what case law might be relevant as far as this, so we don't get off field by doing things that we don't have the legal authority to do. So I would hope that we would get some guidance in writing, and that would be, these are the statutes, these are the ordinances, this is the case law on what authority and power we have or how we go about this, rather than just, doing something different.
Right. And I think once we hire a firm, I think they'll know exactly what authority we have and don't have on that. But it's always good to get state's attorney's opinion on that too.
I hear you.
Yeah. Member Krajewski?
I was just to say, 10 years ago, again, when we did the population, we looked at the growth. It was in 5 and 3 lost a bunch. So the discussions and I guess the arguments got into when we started taking part of 5 into 3, member from 5, Jim Healy, I don't want to give up this neighborhood, but take that neighborhood. And those are the small little discussions that had to go on. Because as you said, everyone has to be identical. And so I don't think you could ever draw a map in all 6 districts that include a whole street. Because as soon as, you got to make one X people, you got to cut it off halfway through a street. If you take that whole street, then you're off 4 people in another district. And the only way to do that is picking up a partial street. So that's the time that the consultant spends a lot of time in these 6 districts, because every time you move a line to get a whole neighborhood in one district, you now have 3 or 4 residents you got to add to different districts to balance it out, and so they got to tweak it somewhere. But those are going to be the discussions once we know the population is, which districts have to move slightly to pick up or lose, and then where do you lose it at, and where do you pick it up at? Which neighborhoods to bring it in or not.
Right. I said we try. Would you try to be smart? But like I said, there's cases you won't be able to. And I mean, do I have a crystal ball? Do I think our districts are going to change a whole ton? I don't think so. I think cosmetically, they'll probably, some might get smaller, like you said, and some might get bigger just because of population shift. But I don't see any big dramatic changes in the districts. I mean, you might lose, a half a mile here or a mile there. Who knows at that point, how the population and, your districts, where your growth has been, and, new subdivisions and in areas like that. So, I mean, that will be the main factor. Member Rutledge?
Thanks, Jim. Can we get district maps showing precincts like relatively sooner rather than later, so we can start taking a look at where our precincts are going to get cut up? Or
Oh, you mean current? You want a current precinct map? We can ask. I mean, the Board of Election has them. They can give you a current map, a larger map with all the precincts and the county board districts only.
that district, I think that'd be helpful to get a better feel of what
You want it digitally or you want it printed?
I'd prefer a printed map.
And having just ran, I know that I had one and it's huge but it's so critical because I don't know if you could do it digitally. I think I would recommend that everyone, if you want one, get it printed, because I think otherwise it would just be too hard to zoom in on.
Yeah.
So do members want it for further district, or they want it for the whole, do you want district and the whole county? So you can look at it, or no?
They both.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk to GIS and we'll talk to the clerk's office and see what they can provide for us. Member Krajewski?
Yeah, I would say I would just talk to the clerk's office, because I assume, I mean, these precincts aren't going to mean anything to us, because as soon as the state and feds come out with their new maps, the clerk's office is probably going to redraw their precincts to try to align them to meet all within a congressional district or all within a House district, because they're not going to want to have a precinct, with two different congressional districts in it. So my guess is they're all going to be moot anyways. I would ask the clerk. I assume that's what they've done the last 10 years ago when they did it, is they started drawing the precincts, redrawing them to match congressional and state, and they don't really care about the county. So these precinct maps, I mean, they'd be good now, but they're not going to mean anything when the new map's drawn by the feds or the state.
Okay, sounds good. Any other discussion or issues on the budget? No, is there any new business? No, I just want to thank everybody. Obviously, we're just starting out. It's a big task, and with everything going on, it's going to be kind of helter-skelter here for the first couple months. But once we get this information done, and I will find a better meeting time, not to back up to the Rules Committee, which has a lot of work to do, and we'll try to find a better date for everybody. Does afternoons work, or I know our mornings are pretty packed?
Yes, afternoons are good.
Okay, before I schedule the next meeting, I'll see what works for everybody, and then we'll send it out, and we'll try to get a schedule then for, at least I would think, for right now, until we find out, every month, and then as we move forward, probably twice a month at that point. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I was gonna say, Jim, just one second, shouldn't we get moving, at least if we're gonna do an RFQ and start working on putting that together? Because I think.
No, we're going to do that. We're going to get that out.
Okay.
We'll get the information, what we need.
Yeah, I'd like to see if we can get that and some preliminary numbers before our next meeting, honestly, or at least meet to get that on the street so we can get them in, so we could start a preliminary numbers.
Yes, we will definitely do that. Okay. There was a motion to adjourn by member Ozlog. Is there a second?
Second, Chaplin.
Second by member Chaplin. Roll call, please.
Member Ozark,
Yes.
member Pachowski.
Yes.
Member Rutledge,
Yes.
member Zay,
Aye.
member Chaplin,
Aye.
member Chavez,
Aye.
member Pajewski.
Aye.
All ayes.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We're adjourned.
Thanks.
We'll see you. Take
Thanks,
care.
Jim.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.